What would you say to the teen who assesses themselves to be mature in a certain area, but their parents do not have the same assessment of them? And I ask this question kind of coming from an angle of at times a teen will want a certain privilege or a certain freedom in their life that maybe their peers have, and their parent withholds that privilege or freedom from them and maybe says, you don't have the maturity for that yet. How would you counsel or shepherd that teen that is saying, I think I'm more mature than so-and-so and they have this, or I think I'm more mature than my parents assess me to be?
I'm finding a theme here in the questions. Yeah. So at the beginning I mentioned one of the lies that really is inherent in the human heart, and that is I have an accurate, objective view of myself. And this would be an example of when we believe that lie and we get into trouble. So the assumption here, if I'm a teen and I'm saying, well, I have this assessment of myself and I believe I'm right, and my parents or my pastor or whoever doesn't see it the same way, we are assuming that we are seeing ourselves more objectively and accurately than someone else. Now, who is more likely to be biased in favor of us? It would be our own human heart, right? So we have to recognize we're not objective. Anytime we're making an assessment about ourselves and we're making an evaluation, I am not objective. I am inherently biased in favor of my own maturity only when it comes to things that I'm trying to get, and I'm inherently biased against my maturity when it comes to things that I'm going to have to take on responsibility. So here's how I would illustrate that. Show me a teen. Maybe this will backfire, this illustration. Maybe this has happened, and I would applaud you if it has, but I doubt it. We'll see. Show me one of you or any teen anywhere whose parents came to them and said, we just got you this brand new iPhone. And you responded and you said, you know what? Thank you for that, but based on my weaknesses and my vulnerabilities and what I know about my own heart, I think I'd be prone to not using that wisely. So would you just keep that for a few years and let's revisit this in a couple of years? Do you guys do that when it comes your way? If so, amazing. Amazing. Great humility and godliness in that. That's not normal. So for the rest of you, notice you're going to be inherently biased to elevate your godliness and your maturity when it comes to getting something that your heart is set on, getting a privilege or a freedom. But if your parents came to you and said, I think you've reached a level of maturity where you can now take on fill in the blank, this responsibility in the home, or something that you really don't want to do. I'm not sure if I'm as mature as you think I am. Then we get biased in the other direction. So that's just illustrating we're going to be biased in favor or against depending on if we want the thing or don't want to do the thing. We're not objective. We cannot trust our own assessments. Proverbs 12:15. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. It is foolish to evaluate ourselves and our ways and assume, without anyone else speaking into that situation, I've got clarity and this is wise and this is the way to do it. Proverbs 27:2 is also interesting. Let another praise you, not your own mouth. And let's apply that to maturity. Let your parent, let your discipler praise you. Let that person say you're mature and you've gotten to this point, not your own mouth. So when it comes to anything that you're growing in, anything that you're striving in, let your praise come from others. Let the assessments of your growth come from others, not where you're going promoting it, trying to get something that you might want. Now, let's say that you're actually right, though. Even though you can't trust it and you wouldn't know it, in that moment just based on your assessment. Let's just say your parents are unreasonable. They unreasonably withhold things from you in your estimation. And you can even demonstrate from other godly families that they have given these things, and it seems like I always get the short end of the stick when it comes to my household. And let's just say your parents have a blind spot, and they're withholding this freedom or privilege from you, not based on any principle, not based on any wisdom, but just a fear, just some sort of subjective human standard like this age is when you get it. It has nothing to do with child or maturity. It's just this age for every child, no matter who it is, this age. And it doesn't have anything behind it. There's nothing besides just a human opinion. You're still better off coming under it. You're still in a better place in God's eyes coming under that and submitting humbly under that than trying to manipulate the circumstance and getting it that way. Now, what can you do in that situation? Well, we like to use the language of humble appeal. You make a humble appeal, and you're demonstrating your maturity in your willingness to make that humble appeal. And what would a humble appeal look like? Well, instead of saying why and complaining and going into a state of self-pity, you're going in a state of respect, honor, seeking clarity. You're resolved to come under the decision, whatever it is. You're giving that impression, I'm resolved to come under it. I'm not going to get upset. I'm just seeking clarity from my parents as to why you're not viewing me as mature. Can you help me understand? You're using that type of language instead of, well, that's not fair. I know you didn't love me. You don't do anything to ever help me. No, help me understand how you made this decision because I want to learn and grow. If you say I'm immature, I want to know why you're saying that. That's what a humble person would do. If somebody says you're not godly, you're not mature, a humble person would say, can you help me understand why you're saying that? After the explanation, you still may not agree with it. They still might be wrong. You might realize it's just based on because I said so. And that's all you get. Well, in that case, let me read to you Proverbs 15:16. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord. Now let's apply that. Better is not having that freedom or privilege that you want. Better is not having it with the fear of the Lord. Clean conscience, honoring the Lord in that, than to have great treasure and trouble with it. Right? So it's better, it's not good to give what you want, but then you have all of the consequences that come with how you got it and how you had to dishonor the Lord to get it. It's better to have that little, to not have it, and the fear of the Lord than to have great treasure and trouble with it. So I think those are just helpful things. It is a challenge. It's not easy in those circumstances, but submission to authorities that you don't necessarily agree with is not unique to being a teen. It is a way of life. You're going to experience it the rest of your life, male or female. You're going to constantly be called to come under authorities that you're not always going to agree with. And there is a godly and humble way to do it, and there's an ungodly and proud way to do it. And you want to be cultivating that humble way to do it in this season of life.
That's so helpful. So thankful for the way that you answered these questions. And the majority of your answers, you looked at them from multiple angles. Because so that question could be asked by someone grumbling because they're not getting what they want. Mm-hmm. And they would want pastors to tell their parents to lighten up on their restrictions or something along those lines. And it's often the teen has a misunderstanding of their own heart, but even if they are viewing themselves accurately, their obligation is still humble submission, and they can have that humble appeal and ask for clarity and even ask for, you might phrase the question, what would you want to see in my life, speaking to your parent, that would at that point show you that I am mature enough to handle this freedom. So,
yep,
really
Great.
Appreciate that.
Yep.